Respect is expensive, and they couldn't afford it. My name is David Chen. I'm 44 years old. I own Chen Industries, a manufacturing company doing $72 million in annual revenue. I have 430 employees. Contracts with major corporations across North America. A reputation built over 18 years of honest work. I also drive a 2003 Ford F-150 with rust on the doors, a dent in the bed, and 280,000 miles on the odometer. 2 weeks ago, I drove that truck to my business partner's mansion for a celebration dinner. Bradley Morrison had just closed a deal that would bring $15 million in new business to our company. He was throwing a party. High-end clients. Potential investors. The kind of people who judge success by what you drive. I pulled up to the circular driveway behind a line of cars that cost more than most people make in a year. Mercedes. BMW. Tesla. Porsche. And then my truck. Faded blue paint. Exhaust pipe held on with a coat hanger. The kind of vehicle that makes valet attendants nervous. A group of men in expensive suits were standing near the entrance. Smoking cigars. Drinking scotch. They saw my truck and the laughter started immediately. Jesus, did someone call a landscaper? One of them. Loud enough for me to hear. Maybe the caterers are late. Another one. More laughter. I didn't know Bradley's charity cases were invited. The third guy. All of them finding this hilarious. I parked. Got out. I was wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Nothing fancy. Same clothes I wear to the factory every day. The laughter got louder. Sir, are you sure you're at the right address? The first guy. Younger. Maybe 35. Rolex on his wrist. A suit that probably cost $3,000. Pretty sure. This is a private event. For Mr. Morrison's business associates. I know. I'm his business partner. The laughter stopped. Confused looks. Bradley's business partner drives that? The Rolex guy pointed at my truck like it was evidence of fraud. Yep. You're David Chen? David Chen? That's me. They looked at each other. Then back to my truck. Then at me. Trying to reconcile the name with the vehicle. The reputation with reality. Before anyone could say more, the valet approached. Young kid. Maybe 22. Nervous around expensive cars and expensive people. Can I take your keys, sir? I handed them over. The valet looked at my truck. I looked at the keys. Look at me. I'll be careful with it, sir. Appreciate it. Registration's in the glove box if you need it. I walked toward the house. Behind me, I heard the valet open the driver's door. Heard him pop the glove box to check the registration. Then silence. Complete silence. The kind that makes you turn around to see what happened. The valet was standing frozen, staring at the registration paper. His face had gone completely white. One of the men walked over. What's wrong? The valet showed him the paper. I was too far away to hear the conversation. But I saw the man's expression change. I saw him look at me. Then at the truck. Then back at the registration. He walked quickly to the other men. Showed them something. Whispered something. All of them looked at me with expressions I'd seen before. Confusion. Embarrassment. The sudden realization that they'd made a very expensive mistake. But I need to take you back. Back to 2006. Back to when I bought that truck new and made a promise I've kept for 18 years. Because that beat-up Ford F-150 isn't just a vehicle. It's a reminder. And what's written on that registration isn't just my name. It's a story that explains everything about who I am and why I'll never drive anything else. I grew up in Sacramento. Son of Chinese immigrants. My father, James Chen, Came to America in 1971 with $800 and a mechanical engineering degree that American companies didn't recognize. Spent his first 5 years working restaurant jobs, washing dishes, bussing tables, learning English. My mother, Lin, worked in garment factories. 12-hour shifts. 6 days a week. Made $4 an hour sewing clothes that sold for 100 times what she was paid to make them. They saved everything. Lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. Slept on a mattress on the floor. Ate rice and vegetables because meat was expensive. Put every extra dollar into a savings account so their son could have better opportunities. I was born in 1980. My parents were in their mid-30s by then. Old for first-time parents. But they'd waited until they could afford a child. Until they had $10,000 saved. Until they felt secure enough to take on the responsibility. I grew up watching them work. Watching them sacrifice. Watching them choose savings over comfort. Investment over luxury. Future security over present pleasure. David, remember, my father would say, money is not for spending on things that make you look successful. Money is for building things that make you actually successful. He finally got an engineering job when I was 8. Started at the bottom. Draftsman. Made $32,000 a year. It was less than he should have made with his education. But he was grateful. Worked harder than everyone else. Studied at night to learn American engineering standards. Moved up. Slowly. My mother kept working at the factory. Even after my father's income improved. Even after they could afford for her to stay home. Because 2 incomes meant faster savings. Meant investing. Meant building wealth instead of just earning money. By the time I was in high school, my parents had saved $180,000. They bought a small house. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms. Needed work. But it was theirs. Paid in cash. No mortgage. David, you see this house, my father said the day we moved in. This is freedom. No bank owns us. No one can take this from us. We own it completely. That's real wealth. Not the size of the house. The fact that it's truly ours. I went to UC Davis. Studied business. Paid my tuition with scholarships, part-time jobs, and help from my parents who'd been saving for my education since I was born. Graduated in 2002 with a degree and 0 debt. Got a job at a manufacturing company. Quality control. Made $38,000 a year. Lived with my parents. Saved every dollar I didn't absolutely need to spend. In 2004, I noticed something at work. The company was inefficient. Wasting money on processes that could be streamlined. Using outdated equipment that broke down constantly. Paying overtime because regular shifts were poorly planned. I wrote a proposal. I showed it to my boss. He ignored it. Showed it to his boss. Also ignored. They didn't want to hear ideas from a quality control guy who'd been there 2 years. So I quit. Used my savings. $65,000 I'd accumulated living at home and working 80-hour weeks. Rented a small space. Bought used equipment. Started Chen Industries in 2006. The business was simple. Contract manufacturing. We made parts for other companies. Metal fabrication. Assembly. Quality control. The boring work nobody wanted to do but everyone needed done. The first year, I did everything by myself. I worked on the machines. Handled sales. Managed books. Made $72,000 in revenue. Barely broke even after expenses. In my second year, I hired 3 people. Revenue hit $240,000. Started making profit. Third year, 8 employees. Revenue hit $800,000. I was 28 years old. My business was growing. I was making good money, and I needed a vehicle for work. Something reliable. Something that could haul equipment and tools. Something practical. I bought a 2003 Ford F-150 in 2006. It was 3 years old. Had 48,000 miles. Cost me $18,000. I paid cash. My father came with me to pick it up. We stood in the dealership parking lot looking at this truck. Nothing special. Just a basic work truck. Blue. Crew cab. 8-foot bed. This is a good choice, David, my father said. Reliable. Practical. It will last many years if you take care of it. I plan to drive it until it dies. Good. Don't be like Americans who buy new cars every 3 years. That's not wealth building. That's ego feeding. On the drive home, my father was quiet. Then he said something I've never forgotten. David, promise me something. Promise me that no matter how successful you become, you'll remember where you came from. Rich people forget. They start thinking they deserve luxury because they earned money. They forget that money is a tool, not a trophy. Promise me you won't forget. I promise, Dad. Drive this truck until it dies. When people judge you for it, remember that their judgment is worth nothing. What matters is what you build, not what you drive. I kept that promise. Over the next 18 years, Chen Industries grew. By 2012, we were doing $8 million in revenue. By 2016, $24 million. By 2020, $48 million. By 2024, $72 million. I could afford any car I wanted. Could afford 10 cars. Could afford a different luxury vehicle for every day of the week. But I kept driving my 2003 Ford F-150. Changed the oil every 5,000 miles. Fixed things when they broke. Drove it to meetings. Drive it to the factory. I drove it to my business partners' mansion. And I never changed the registration. The one my father had insisted I fill out a certain way when I first bought the truck. Owner's name, David Chen, son of James and Lin Chen. Not just David Chen. The full version. Because my father said I should never forget whose sacrifice made my success possible. That registration is what the valet saw. That registration is what made him freeze. That registration is what the men in expensive suits were looking at when they realized they'd made a mistake. I walked into Bradley's mansion. The party was already in full swing. Maybe 60 people. Catered food. Open bar. String quartet playing in the corner. The kind of event where everyone's trying to look successful. Bradley saw me immediately. Came over with a huge smile. David. You made it. Come on, I want you to meet some people. He introduced me to potential clients. Investors. People with money who might want to work with us. Every introduction was the same. This is David Chen. My business partner. He's the reason Chen Industries exists. He's the brains behind everything we do. People would shake my hand. Ask about the company. Talk business. Professional. Polite. Then, about 30 minutes in, a Rolex guy from the driveway approached. He'd come inside. Brought his friends with him. They found Bradley. Brad, interesting guest list tonight. Very diverse. Thanks, Richard. We've got some great people here. Including your parking lot charity case? Bradley looked confused. What? The guy who showed up in a truck that belongs in a junkyard. What's his name? David something? Bradley's face went cold. David Chen. My business partner. The guy who founded this company. The reason any of us are standing here celebrating a $15 million deal. Richard's face changed. From smug to uncertain. That guy is David Chen? The David Chen who owns Chen Industries? Yes. That guy. But he drives a piece of shit truck from 2003. What successful person drives a 21-year-old truck? A person who understands that success isn't about appearances. It's about results. David doesn't waste money on cars because he's too busy making money from running the best contract manufacturing operation in the western United States. Richard wasn't backing down. He'd had too much scotch. Too much ego. Brad, optics matter. When your business partner shows up looking like a broke contractor, it reflects poorly on the company. Investors care about these things. Do they? Bradley's voice had an edge now. Because the investors I talk to care about profit margins. About growth. About reliability. David's company has grown 15% year over year for 18 straight years. Our profit margins are better than 90% of manufacturers our size. Our customer retention rate is 98%. Those are the optics that matter. Still, the truck is a 2003 Ford F-150 with 280,000 miles. David's put those miles on it driving to job sites, meeting with clients, checking on operations, building relationships. The truck represents 18 years of work. 18 years of choosing substance over style. And if that bothers you, Richard, then you're exactly the kind of person we don't want to work with. The conversation ended. Richard walked away. Embarrassed. His friends followed. But the damage was done. Word had spread through the party. People were whispering. Looking at me. Some with respect. Some with confusion. Some with the same judgment Richard had shown. About an hour later, the valet supervisor approached me. Older guy. Maybe 50. He asked if he could speak with me privately. We stepped out onto the back terrace. Away from the party. Mr. Chen, I need to apologize. When you arrived, my valet checked your registration. He showed it to me because he was confused. The registration lists you as David Chen, son of James and Lin Chen. We looked you up. Found out who you are. What you've built. And we felt terrible about how those men treated you. It's fine. People judge. It's what they do. It's not fine. Those men mocked you because they measure worth in car payments. But your registration tells a different story. You listed your parents' names. Not many people do that. It shows respect. Shows you remember where you came from. That matters more than what you drive. My father insisted on it. When I bought the truck, he said I should never forget whose sacrifice made my success possible. Your father's a wise man. He was. He died 8 years ago. Heart attack. He was 74. I'm sorry. But he clearly taught you something most rich people never learn. That character matters more than cars. We talked for a few more minutes. Then I went back to the party. But something had shifted. People were treating me differently. Not worse. Just different. Like the truck had become a litmus test. The people who judged it harshly kept their distance. The people who understood it sought me out. One of Bradley's potential investors approached me. Woman in her 50s. CEO of a logistics company. Mr. Chen, I heard about the incident with your truck. I wanted to tell you something. I did business with Richard's company last year. He's the type who spends $2 million on cars to prove he made $3 million. Then files bankruptcy when the market shifts because he never built reserves. I didn't renew our contract. But I'd be very interested in talking to you about working with Chen Industries. I'd welcome that conversation. Good. Because I trust people who drive 21-year-old trucks more than I trust people who lease new Porsches every year. One group is building wealth. The other is performing wealth. I prefer to work with builders. We exchanged information. Set up a meeting for the following week. Over the next hour, 3 more potential clients approached me. All with similar stories. All saying they'd been watching how people reacted to my truck. All saying they preferred to work with someone who valued substance over appearance. By the end of the night, I generated more business interest than Bradley had with his expensive party. Not because of my truck. Because of what my truck represented. Character. Priorities. The understanding that real success isn't about looking rich. It's about being financially secure. The next morning, Bradley called me. "David, I need to apologize for Richard. He was out of line. I told him he's not welcome at future company events." "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. He disrespected you. More importantly, he showed he doesn't understand what we're building here. Chen Industries isn't about appearances. It's about results. You've taught me that over the years. I should have defended you faster." "Brad, you defended me plenty." "It's fine." "It's not fine. And I've been thinking. Maybe I need to learn from you. I spent $80,000 on a Tesla last year. Could have bought a reliable used car for $20,000 and invested the other $60,000. That's what you would have done. Probably. But it's your money. You're allowed to spend it how you want. I know. But I'm starting to understand why you drive that truck. It's not because you can't afford better. It's because better doesn't matter to you. What matters is building something that lasts. The truck is proof you care more about foundation than facade." Bradley wasn't wrong. But he also wasn't completely right. The truck wasn't about proving anything. It was about remembering something. My father died in 2016. Heart attack at his house. He was 74. Lived long enough to see Chen Industries succeed. Lived long enough to know his son had built something real. At the funeral, my mother pulled me aside. Handed me an envelope. "Your father wanted you to have this. He wrote it a week before he died." I opened it. One page. My father's handwriting. The letter was short. He said he was proud of me. Proud of what I'd built. Proud that I'd kept my promise to drive that truck until it died. Proud that I'd never forgotten where I came from. But he wanted me to know something. The truck wasn't just about remembering sacrifice. It was about teaching others. About showing people that success doesn't require luxury. That wealth isn't about spending. It's about building. He wrote that every time someone judged me for my truck, I had an opportunity. An opportunity to show them what real success looked like. Not flashy. Not impressive to strangers. Just solid. Sustainable. Built on values instead of vehicles. The letter ended with one sentence. "Keep driving that truck, David. Not because you have to. Because every mile you put on it is a mile toward teaching people what actually matters." I've put another 80,000 miles on the truck since my father died. It now has 280,000 total. The engine's been rebuilt once. The transmission twice. The body has rust. The interior has tears. It's objectively ugly. But I'll never sell it. Never trade it. Never upgrade. Because my father was right. Every time someone judges me for it, I get to show them what real success looks like. Every time someone makes a joke about the poverty mobile, I get to demonstrate that poverty is debt and luxury payments. Wealth is assets and financial freedom. The truck isn't a symbol. It's a teacher. And the lesson is simple. Respect is expensive. And it's not for sale at car dealerships. It's earned by building things that matter. By honoring sacrifice. By choosing substance over status every single time. Richard and his friends learned that lesson the hard way. They spent the night mocking a truck worth maybe $3,000. While standing next to a man whose company is worth $72 million. Because they couldn't see past the rust. The valet saw it though. Saw my father's name on that registration. Saw that I'd honored him by never removing it. Saw that some people measure success in generations, not just bank accounts. I'm 44 years old. I own a manufacturing company doing $72 million in revenue. I have 430 employees. Contracts with major corporations. Financial security my parents could never have imagined. And I drive a 2003 Ford F-150 with rust, dents, and 280,000 miles of memories. The truck will die eventually. Engines don't last forever. When it does, I'll probably buy another used truck. Something practical. Something that runs. Something that doesn't require me to perform wealth I already have. Because my father taught me something that Richard and his Rolex will never understand. The most expensive thing you can own isn't a car or a house or a watch. It's integrity. And you can't buy that at any price. You can only build it. Mile by mile. Choice by choice. Truck payment you never make so you can invest that money in something that actually matters. Respect is expensive. And they couldn't afford it. But I could. Because I learned the price from parents who paid it first. Who sacrificed luxury so their son could build security. Who taught me that the vehicle doesn't make the man. The man makes the vehicle meaningful. And that beat-up truck? It's the most valuable thing I own. Not because of what it's worth. Because of what it represents. Every scratch. Every dent. Every mile is proof that I kept my promise. That I never forgot. That I built something real instead of something shiny. If this story reminded you that substance matters more than status, share it. Leave a comment about someone who taught you the difference between looking successful and being successful. Subscribe to Born for Revenge for stories about people who chose character over cars. Remember that the people who judge your vehicle probably can't afford your values. Real wealth isn't what you drive. It's what you build, who you honor, and what you choose not to buy so you can. Invest in what actually matters.